So I have a sermon written on and prepared for tonight, and it was one that I sort of struggled with, which usually to me is a dangerous sign, because that's an indication that it's not really the sermon that I want to give. Nonetheless, I tend to fight with it until I get something out that I think mostly works. And tonight I was going to talk about the power of symbols and symbolism, because we've got Passover coming up. But the truth is, that's not what I want to talk about, so we're going to do something a little different. So as we are getting to know each other, for those of you who may not know, I'm relatively new to the community. I've only been here about 8-9 months, and I understand to be really considered a member of the greater Nebraska community, you only have to live here 40 years. So I'm getting close. And as we're getting to know each other, I like to tell the congregation a little bit about myself. And one of the things they are starting to realize is that as someone who grew up in Houston, I am a diehard Astros fan. And I was thinking about that because right now they're not playing so great. And I'm noticing a number of my friends are getting very frustrated. And I keep saying they've got a lot of talent. Don't worry, they're going to turn it around. But truth is, at some point, they're not going to turn it around. Maybe this year, maybe some year in the future. And I was thinking about that because my middle son, the only one I've been able to convince have anything to do with sports ball, for most of his life, the Astros were actually pretty gosh darn good. Between going to the playoffs and the World Series multiple times, they've been an exciting team to watch. And when your team is doing really well, it's easy to be a fan because you know and can expect greatness. But what do you do if things aren't going so well? How do you not only root for a team, but how do you find that passion, that drive when you struggle year after year to see them accomplish much and they raise your hopes and then only dash it? No, I'm not talking about the Cornhuskers, so you can read into that if you wish. I'm actually talking about the most Jewish of all teams, the Mets. As any Mets fan will tell you, they are the most Jewish because they do that to you. They raise your hopes. They give you moments of inspiration and celebration and joy, and then inevitably you know something awful is going to happen. And the reason why they are the most Jewish of all teams is because, unfortunately, that is all too often what it's like to be Jewish. You know, we have moments of elation and celebration and joy, and then we have moments of tremendous pain. I'll get back to that in a moment. This week, we're reading from Parashat Mitzorah. Alexander, just checking one more time, that's the right portion, correct? Excellent. And Tazria Mitzorah is oftentimes a combined portion, but because we have an additional leap month this year to help maintain sort of the balance of the Hebrew calendar, I never tell anyone to take anything on faith except the Hebrew calendar. It's complicated, just buy one, don't worry about it. So Tazria Mitzorah are broken up this year, but they have everything to do with issues relating to ritual purity and impurity and a skin ailment known as tzara'at and bodily emissions. Really, these are only portions that a gynecologist or dermatologist could love. And what happens is that if you find yourself afflicted with tzara'at, which was translated to be leprosy, though if you read the text, clearly it wasn't, because it came and it went, it was some sort of scaly skin ailment. It was a prescribed ritual for what you were supposed to do to get it diagnosed by the priest, how you're supposed to cleanse yourself in order to return to the community. And as Cantor chanted this evening, there are certain sacrifices associated with those rituals. Now, what the rabbis do is they read into the text the cause for tzara'at. They say, actually, it's based off an acronym, Motzei Shem Ra, one who brings forth a bad name. Or, as they say, anyone who engages in evil speech or lashon hara or gossip, they are the ones who become afflicted with this. And they give some examples from the Torah, including what happens to Miriam, Moses' sister, for sort of saying some unkind things about Moses' wife. Now, they play with this and they create a whole system of how to prevent people from engaging in hurtful words, that we're supposed to be a guide for all of us. But I was thinking about that because it talks a lot about the person who says the mean things, but what about the person it's said about? How are they supposed to navigate this? And at this point, you're probably going, Rabbi, where are you going with all this? Don't worry, I have a plan. As Jews, we live in a world where there have been a lot of hateful and hurtful things about us, not just these past days, weeks, and months, but across the generations. And yet, for quite a long time here, especially in the United States, we've lived with our team doing really well. We've lived with tremendous prosperity, tremendous peace, and a relatively low level of anti-Semitism and hate speech. But the truth is, it's always been there. It's not something that has ever truly gone away. And there are a myriad of causes for that, and we can talk about that another time, because what I wanted to talk about is what happens when our team is not doing so good. What do we do? How do we find the passion, the spirit, the joy? How do we find the ability to celebrate our heritage when things aren't so great for us? Now, obviously, they've been much, much, much worse. But still, it's not so great, and it's not always so easy to be Jewish these days. And I want to provide a couple of answers. One is, for all of you who are here to celebrate the bar mitzvah tomorrow, that's one way you can do it, is to celebrate major milestones, to show up and be present, whether it's in person or virtually, to be there to celebrate with family and community and to say, I stand with you as you take on this tradition onto your shoulders, because it is an awesome and overwhelming responsibility. It's not easy, as many of us know, to be proudly and openly Jewish and to live as Jews. And to see a young person and young people before that be willing to do that is a beautiful and profound dedication to our tradition. And secondly, we are celebrating Passover beginning Monday evening, the festival of Pesach, the festival of our redemption. And truth be told, we are struggling at a time where we are finding words. What does it mean to be free when we know that there are fellow brethren who are still being held captive and there are millions on the verge of starvation? How can we celebrate Passover? Well, the truth is, Passover, more often than not, was celebrated in difficult times with difficult questions. And nonetheless, we recognize the core of our sacred holiday, the most observed of all the Jewish holidays in the Jewish home, which is to teach it to your children. It's okay to teach our children. Yeah, sometimes our team isn't doing well. Nonetheless, we are proud of our tradition, and here is why. Because once we were slaves in Egypt, and then we were redeemed. And because of that redemption, we have an obligation to work to free all others as well. No matter what happens to us, we stand on the side of holiness and sacredness and godliness and community and family and friendship and tradition and heritage. So to celebrate Passover in challenging times is also a wonderful demonstration of our commitment to stretch the metaphor once more to our team. So in a way, we are presented with an opportunity, despite all the hateful and hurtful things being said to us and about us, in spite of all the things that we are seeing going on in the world that trouble us so incredibly deeply to our very souls, our very essence, we nonetheless have an opportunity to keep living in beautiful and meaningful ways as Jews, whether it's celebrating a bar mitzvah, whether it's celebrating one of our major and wonderful festivals, whether it's hanging a mezuzah on our door or wearing a Magen David, whether it's learning a little bit more Hebrew, whether it's coming to a few more services, whether it's engaging more with community, whether it's studying or learning or teaching, whether it's watching a documentary about the Borscht Belt or rediscovering our roots. There are so many ways, so many profound and beautiful ways we can live as Jews, even if times are challenging. Because times will be challenging, but they will get better. Our team will do better, and opportunities to celebrate it will come. And until those days, may we find the miracles of the small blessings in our lives and elevate those, including the celebration of Shabbat in family and community. Shabbat Shalom.